And she asked me, like, what do you do when you're not boarding dogs? I said, well, and I just didn't know what to say. And I said, I'm a canine herbalist. And I just stepped into that role. And that was a long time ago. And here we are, you know, here we are. And it's kind of awesome. We've gotten so far away from the idea that our dogs can live on their own and they can live
Mm,
with our help, that we could actually feed our dogs, right? We could
yeah.
actually feed our dogs. We could actually have dogs that live long without uh, what I would call systemic veterinary care, like the type of veterinary care that's not adding to our dog's life, in my opinion. It is shortening our dog's life
Mm.
because, you can't look someone in the face and say, how old is your dog? They're all gray faced and absolutely look haggard, right? And they're 6.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing and it's a travesty.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for stopping by today. I am, as usual, so excited to have you here today to join us. Today, there are 3 of us, as you can see. And I'm really excited to bring to you today our guest, Rita Hogan. And along with, I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a second. Along with her, of course, I have my dear friend and co-pilot here with my nonprofit organization, Worldwide Academy Training Services, Thurston Gill, who is our, as many of you know, our pet first aid and CPR instructor, human first aid CPR instructor, all things medical emergency kind of guy, safety and security, personal protection, and emergency preparedness. So I brought him on today to help me out with this interview. And I'm just really excited. I know that we're going to get all kinds of information that we can use today with Rita. And so Rita, well, before I do that, don't forget, real quick, don't forget to hit the like button, the thumbs up button, the subscribe, share, comment. Please get this information out to as many people as you can. The more you share, the more people get to see it, the more it gets moved up in the algorithms on YouTube. Share it everywhere because I know we're going to have an amazing amount of information for you today. So anyway, this is Rita, and I'm so glad to have her today. She is a clinical canine herbalist with over 20 years of experience specializing in holistic canine herbalism. She's an educator, speaker, writer, formulator, and herbal medicine maker. She uses a combination of diet, flower essences, herbs, mushrooms, and phytoembryonic therapies. Whoa, that's my first question. Okay. Rita her work involves helping dog owners, natural practitioners, and veterinarians understand how to use herbs according to plant language. She believes in integrative holistic care where traditional herbalism complements and supports science-based integrative veterinary medicine. That's a mouthful, and that is a wealth of information. Rita, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. I know she's really busy on her book tour, and let her tell you about that today. Thank you. Welcome.
I'm excited to be here. It's awesome. Love
Yeah.
it.
Well, we are so excited to have you. So let's and Thurston, you can, just jump in when you have a comment or questions, whatever. But I just want to
Cool.
let's start with what is a clinical canine herbalist? I'm going to take it right down to the very basics.
Um, Clinical herbalism is seeing clients uh, day in, day out in health. For me, it's health balancing matters. I get a lot of cases that come from veterinarians that are having a hard time figuring a dog out. I get a lot of one-on-one consultations from all over the world. I work on Zoom. I also see clients in person, but not that many, actually. Um, it it's fascinating because I've been doing it for over 20 years in some capacity. And for me, it also involves research, it involves writing, it involves experimentation in my I would say laboratory. And not like animal experimentation, plant experimentation. But yeah, I mean, I just use a whole bunch of facets of natural medicine to help dogs have better health outcomes and longevity.
Wow. And you've been doing this for over 20 years. How did you get started? Like what brought you in this direction?
Well, I decided to start dedicating more time to going back to my roots of Western herbalism. That's, the plants that are here in North America. Um, Sorry, I have a little bit of allergies right now, so I sound like a underwater frog.
Okay.
But it I started boarding dogs kennel free in the mountains of Tennessee, about an hour east of Nashville. I had a little business called Almost Home Pet Farm, and I also had a holistic pug dog rescue. I'm a pug freak, and I rescued with a behaviorist. I rescued a bunch of pugs, like hundreds of pugs, over a period of 6 years, and um, I started using herbs and salves and natural medicine on those pugs when they come into rescue because rescues don't have a lot of money. And I did have a lovely vet named Kevin Brummett who helped me with all my surgeries and kind of oversaw my craziness. And um, it, I just noticed like with my boarding dogs, like how sick they were. Their parents would drop them off with a bag of kibble and a bag of pills and leave them there for weeks. And I would see them, just having a calm environment, see them start to improve. But I would definitely improve their bowl, add things that improve gut health and nutrition in general. And people would come back and pick up their dogs and then be like, my dog's so calm and better behaved. And I started having conversations with my clients and definitely seeing what works and what doesn't work, and having conversations about better kibble at the time. And I required it actually. And after a while, after seeing the behavior modifications, I and the better health outcomes, I required it because the dogs were easier to deal with. And I just decided, you know what? I am going to dedicate my life to dogs and herbalism. And at that time, the internet was like that big, all you could see was a website and it didn't have much. I remember for like a year, trying to put a form on my webpage, right? A form. And so people could make a reservation online. Never did get to that. I still had to go old school. But I guess bookstores and libraries were my favorite places because I was able to connect with people across the world that had been writing books, and find out there was, animal herbalists, not specifically dog, but animal herbalists, a lady in England, and then these two vets, Susan Wynn and Barbara Foget, who Barbara's in Australia. I don't know where Susan is, but they wrote this book called Veterinary Herbalism. It's a textbook for veterinarians, and I read it and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then this other vet named Cheryl Swartz, she wrote a book called Four Paws, Five Directions. And I think every dog owner should have a copy of that because it changed my life. Like so many aha moments of like, I knew the dog was an ecosystem, and I knew that everything was connected. And it's just like nature, you can't fill in a stream, right? With dirt and expect anything upstream and downstream to be the same. And everything is connected. Our world is an ecosystem. We're seeing failures in our ecosystems right now because of pollution, right? And the body's the same way. It mimics nature. And I really did get to that. And so I just, someone asked me, one of the people coming out to board dogs that I had never met, they used to come for an interview, and she asked me, like, what do you do when you're not boarding dogs? I said, well, I just didn't know what to say. And I said, I'm a canine herbalist. And I just stepped into that role, and that was a long time ago. And here we are, you know, here we are. And it's kind of awesome.
So that's,
So,
Hey, Rita, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
A question for you. When it comes to uh, kibble,
yeah.
and nutrition, what is it that you find that's primarily missing in the kibble that we feed our dogs? That's a seems to be a big issue. It's been a big issue for the last, from what I can see, last 10 years or so, where people are starting to change what we're feeding our dogs, and for various reasons. But from your experience, what have you seen that pretty much targets the problem with kibble, other than the garbage that they probably put in it to make it?
Yeah. Well, my dog Susie lived until she was at least 24, right? She never
Wow.
ate kibble. She ate raw milk, food scraps, uh, meat scraps. We lived on a farm, uh, parts of organs and, nasty things. She ate little animals running around, made me cry. And, she forced on herbs. I remember her eating blackberries and blueberries all the time. She ate apples, uh, she was not spayed. She was not over vaccinated. She did not eat kibble. Um,
Mhm.
and now, I'm 54. So you fast forward, and now dogs are being labeled geriatric at 8 or 9. So there's
Hmm.
problems, right? The
Yeah.
problems that I can see are kibble, over vaccination, the misuse of antibiotics, um, and the poisons that we put in our dogs called flea and tick meds, um, and different things like that. Like, those things are, again, being treated like they don't affect the ecosystem, but
Mhm.
they do. They affect every part of it. And kibble, it's just processed food. Kibble is like eating McDonald's every single day, and you see what happens to people's health who do that. Um,
Yeah, look at it that way. Yeah. Okay.
there's a kibble hierarchy, right? There's really like bottom of the barrel kibbles, and
Right.
there are top of the line. Like, there's a kibble called carnivore, which I definitely would say is the best kibble on the market. There are some limited ingredient kibbles, but kibble was just a convenience food. It was made out of convenience, and it's completely out of hand. And it's a place to put, in many cases, our dead animals, our unused animals, our roadkill, our euthanized cats and dogs. And yes, dogs are eating dogs and cats are eating cats in certain levels of kibble. That's called rendered meal. It has everything in it, that everything that you're not using, everything from the slaughterhouses, everything from all over, including things like unused candy. I mean, plastics, it's nuts. But then you have these upper, like, echelon kibbles that take pledges not to use any of that, to have a better kibble. And you definitely see better outcomes on that kibble. But one of the problems with kibble is it's dead. It's completely void of life. There is zero life in that kibble. Um, there's no enzymes. And animals produce their own enzymes, but they don't produce enough. And you need the enzymes in the food. So even cooked food has no enzymes, hardly any enzymes. And so, I definitely am a proponent of a raw food diet. Um, if you're going to feed cooked food, I like to add enzymes to it. Every kibble meal needs digestive enzymes. It needs more vitality. Some people can't afford it, and I get that, but we can always improve the bowl just by improving our diets. Like last night, I made some asparagus. I don't eat, I really don't eat half the asparagus because it gets harder towards the bottom, and you can
Yeah.
take that bit of food processor and give it to your dog. And one meal scientifically proven to improve the microbiome of the large intestine, to feed the microflora, different types of variety creates different types of microorganisms. So, kibble is convenient, yes, right? It's convenient, absolutely. But that's what it is. It's convenient. And a lot of our kibbles, even kibbles that I won't mention, that are so-called science-based, that's all they are, is science. They are not food. They're corn gluten meal, they're soy protein, they're filled with glyphosate, they are filled with pesticides and herbicides and even cancerous tissue, which is in rendered meal, which is just disgusting. And so, I had a little pug. His name was Finbar. I talk about him in my book. And when he was in the vet's office like every month to every other month with pneumonia before he was 4. And watching your little pug suck air is like so awful.
Yeah.
And I turned that bag over. It was Purina 1 with yogurt, right? And the bag was like, had an iridescence to it and had all this like fresh cuts of chicken and fresh vegetables cascading down the front of the bag, right? And I didn't even think about it. I turned that bag over and I researched what those ingredients are. And I was so angry. Like, how can this be legal? Right? How can it be legal? I don't understand how this can be legal. And it is. It is legal and it's crazy. Just like this morning, I found out that Teflon is being mixed in with a lot of our pasta. Teflon to make it smooth, right? And I'm thinking, Teflon is a carcinogen. Like, that's nuts, right? It can be sprayed in the back of a pickup truck, but not in food. And so, how can how can that be legal? I don't understand. And there's some wonderful people out there, veterinarians and advocates for holistic veterinary care that are fighting the big fight with kibble companies right now and things like that. But I think we just need to take our feeding. We've gotten so far away from the idea that our dogs can live on their own and they can live with our help, that we could actually feed our dogs, right? We could actually feed our dogs. We could actually have dogs that live long without what I would call systemic veterinary care, like the type of veterinary care that's not adding to our dog's life, in my opinion. It is shortening our dog's life. Because, you can't look someone in the face and say, how old is your dog? They're all gray-faced and absolutely look haggard, right? And they're 6.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing, and it's a travesty. Or, someone the other day said, oh my God, my dog made it to 10. And I was like, they should have made it to 20. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking it. I didn't say it, of course. I'm not rude.
Right.
One of my dogs just passed away last night, actually. And it's okay. It was coming. But she was 15, and I still think that's a travesty. Like, she was traditionally reared. I've only had her for about 5 years, and she was a basset hound, and she got diagnosed 2 years ago with anal cancer, and they told us she was going to be dead in just a couple months, and she lived 2 good years, and had her bucket list and did all the crazy things that basset hounds do. But even at 15, for me, that should be just getting geriatric for most breeds, and it's not. Dogs are dying at like 8 and 9 years old now, and it's becoming normalized, which I will never normalize that. It just will not happen in my vocabulary. And kibble's a big part of it. So, it's one of the facets. It's not all, but there are, I talk about in my book, I talk about the kibble hierarchy. And there is a kibble hierarchy. And if you're going to feed kibble, you need digestive enzymes and you need limited ingredient and kibbles that do not use rendered meal.
I never, sadly, I am on this quest of reducing and eliminating processed food from my diet. Never connected the idea that my dog's kibble is processed food. Yeah, yeah.
All you have to do, my man, is turn that bag over, get on the internet, look up each ingredient, and you will be so appalled that,
Yeah.
like, the first time I did it, I was crying. I thought, oh my, because I'm telling you, little Finbar, he died when he was 17. Um, little Finbar, it's precious, just precious little dude. Loved him so much, 12 pounds of love. And he never went back to the vet after I changed his food. Not once. He never got
Mm,
another round of pneumonia. Not
mm,
one time after I
right.
changed his food. It was unreal. And that's really put me on the path. Like, okay, there's something going on, right? There's
Right.
something going on and we can improve this. And
Right.
so, that's my goal for the rest of my life for sure.
Uh, I'm listening to you, Rita, and I'm like, she could be talking about us humans. I mean, what I'm
Yes, I was
hearing
just
you
about to
say,
say. It's the
it,
same thing. You're right.
uh,
It's
Yeah,
just the same
it is
thing.
the same thing, right? It is the same thing. And yesterday, I got a list from an environmental working group, which is an environmental kind of pollution watchdog, right? And they made a list of the top, I think it was top 4 or 3 foods that are laden with glyphosate, right?
mm,
Which destroys the microbiome in the body and many other things. Um, Number one, I believe was Triscuit.
mm,
Uh, the other one was goldfish, and the other one was Cheerios, right? But
yes.
here's the thing:
Hmm.
there isn't hardly a kid in America that doesn't eat
Yes,
goldfish like
yes,
it's going out of style.
yes.
They serve
Exactly.
it in schools, and it's in snacks, and you look at all the soda, and it's a perfect example. I just got back from Italy, right? And I am gluten free here in the States. I haven't had gluten in probably 15 years that I can remember. I get very sick, and I went to Italy and could eat gluten and drink wine like with abandon. I felt like I gained 10 pounds. I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I am going to milk this for everything. I will go home and lose my 10 pounds. But oh my God, right? I was having croissants and I was eating pasta and
I've
I,
heard that.
without getting bloated, which is, no bloat to
Way
the
to go.
pasta eating. Um,
So
I
what's the
was
difference?
drinking coffee and and it's so crazy because the gluten that you eat here has bromide in it. It is genetically modified. There is no fiber left. It doesn't, we spray the glyphosate. The wheat is sprayed with glyphosate as a desiccant that dries it out faster, um, so that we can produce more. And it's just, it's so detrimental to our health. And I'm thinking, oh my God. But the crazy thing is, I can go into any gas station around America, and I've been driving all around America since February 4th, and I can't find a single item to eat
Mm.
except for possibly a banana, which spikes my blood sugar, which I don't want to do. So, like, I can't go into a, a gas station, right? And I don't care if it's one of those super ones that have all of a truck stop. All of that food that is in that truck stop causes cancer, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not the banana. Okay, but the apple is sprayed like crazy. Um, so I don't eat apples. I'm not going to eat an orange from a place like that unless it's organic, So I can't find anything to eat at a gas station or a truck stop. So I have to stop at a grocery store and get something. In Italy, there were so many choices, healthy choices for me to eat at any gas station. And what's crazy, it could look like that gas station could look so run down, right? You walk in the door and you're like, oh my God, there's an espresso bar, right? There is fresh sandwiches that have just been made with homemade bread.
Yeah.
There are different types of uncured meats. There's different types of, so many things. They don't put nitrates in their meat. They don't put toxins in their meat. their food is love, right? So it's like it's so fascinating to me that you can drive anywhere in that country and find a healthy choice, right? So
Mhm.
it's like it's the same thing for food, it's the same thing for dogs. I don't know what they feed their dogs in Italy. I never did get around to that information, but it's fascinating to me that the food systems are systematically killing us and our dogs. And we
Mhm.
have messed up our food so much in America, but it's not too late, right? It's
Yeah.
just pollution.
I
We
was
can
gonna,
clean it up.
yeah.
We can change it around. The more people that see the benefits of getting processed food out of their diet, which will make you more sensitive, my dear, which is the most unfortunate part. You're just not feeling those sensitivities now, but you feel them a lot when you clean up your body. And it's
I
crazy.
was,
I'm a cancer, I had cancer in 2017. Um, so, I speak from the heart when it comes to the just absolute shit that is in our foods and our dogs' foods and our cats' foods.
I was just gonna say that, I really, and it's like almost every interview that I do, it comes back to this same uh, statement that I really think that we are in a time of awakening right now, where people are awakening to all of the truths in multiple areas of life. And this is one of those areas. So it's a good thing. We're seeing what has become of, what we have done, but we now can do something about it. And so that's exciting for me to see, like, okay, people are becoming more aware, and they are, and then it's up to us to take action, right? And we can do that starting in with ourselves and with our families. So when you said, because I'm learning today. I'm learning. This is a big learning session for me. That dogs should live much longer.
Mm.
I am thinking about, I call him my grand dog. He's a pit bull, Harley, my daughter and grandchildren's dog. He's 9 and he is on his way out. He got bit by a tick, and he is basically just a shell of himself right now. And I'm thinking, is there something we can do to help him yet? I mean, it's
Yeah,
pitiful.
absolutely. There totally is.
When I see him, I just cry every time I see him.
So, just send me an email and I'll tell you 3 products that you can give him that will change his life if it's from ticks. Um, and and my book definitely will help. Page 137
I'm
is
gonna
the
write
best
that down
page in
right
the
now.
book. It gives you a format for a protocol, but there are a few things that I was telling my friend who I'm in her house right now on in outside of New Haven, Connecticut, and there's lots of ticks here.
Mhm.
And I just told her, like, listen, every single one of you, your cat, your dog, your kids, your husband, you all need to be on what's called a homeopathic nosode, a Lyme and tick pathogen nosode. It's just it tastes like water. Just take a few drops every week during tick season. It will help immensely. In case you get ticks, the issue is we're not going to win that battle, right? We're not going to
Mm.
win the insect battle. It's not happening. Nature is so much more powerful than us. It's going to be here when we're gone. You know, we're
Mhm.
not going to win that battle. We need to fortify the terrain of our bodies. We need to make,
I
I
agree.
never got COVID, right?
Mhm.
I didn't get COVID. Um, I worked so hard on my inner terrain during COVID that I, stayed in my house for the most part. I I had a great COVID. I have to say, I really dedicated myself to things I didn't never had time for.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
I
Yeah.
was busier than ever, but I did so much research and I did so much interaction with plant medicine during COVID. And I worked on my vitamin D levels. I worked on my selenium, my zinc, my vitamin C, and I never got COVID. And uh, the reason why is because I worked on my inner terrain. And I'm sure I got exposed to it, but I never became symptomatic. And that's the thing. We're never going to win the war on germs or viruses or ticks or fleas. They they affect people who are ill, who are their terrain is not tough. Their microbiome is depleted. Um, when I got cancer, I was a stressed out mess, right? Long story, sad story, whatever of why I was, but I wasn't taking care of myself at all. I just wasn't. I was working 16 hours a day. I had, I can't take a break. I had all these reasons and story that was absolute a crock when I look back. And um, when you are stressed out, your terrain suffers. When
Absolutely.
you're stressed out and in fight or flight, you know all about fight or flight, don't you?
Absolutely.
You're in emergency medicine. When you are in fight or flight, there's things that happen in your body, your ecosystem.
Mhm.
The liver goes on survival mode. So it's only doing the things that keep you alive, right?
Exactly.
And at a minimum, your digestion goes on survival mode. Your lungs are on survival mode. They're working really hard, right, for you to breathe and give oxygen to your heart. But they're not filtering pathogens like they need to. Your lymphatic system is doing the minimal. Your kidneys are doing the minimal. They're basically shutting down. And, they're going to make you not want to go to the bathroom while you are in fight or flight. And
Hmm.
so many people spend most of their day in fight or flight and they eat while doing it. And so they get all these gastrointestinal problems. And the thing that people need to realize is that our dogs and cats are in fight or flight if we are.
Just
They
gonna
we
ask
think
you that.
I was on a podcast yesterday and I was explaining, a lot of people think that we communicate with our animals through what we are saying. And that is not
Mm.
even,
Yep.
it is so far from the truth. Uh,
Gestures.
you know, they get our gestures, they get our tone of voice, but they are communicating us through smell. They know
Mm.
where we've been. They know if we're stressed. We smell like cortisol, adrenaline. We're giving off a frequency of being unsafe, right?
Mm.
And safety is a priority to animals and people, whether we know it or not.
Mm.
Safety is so important, and we smell unsafe. And that makes our dogs worry like crazy. Be like, my dog is so clingy, right? My dog is so clingy. I don't understand why he's so clingy. But most of the people that come to me for my dog is so clingy, they are a stressed out mess, right? Not on purpose, but they're stressed out. And science has proven and told us and dictated to us that even when we're scrolling, right? Scrolling on our phone like this, in social media,
Mhm.
looking at things, we are in a low level fight or flight mode.
Mhm.
And our body is not, evolution has not taken place for technology as of yet, right? Our bodies aren't used to this. And we are looking for stimulus that stimulates, and we are in a low level of fight or flight. And think about how much screen time our kids and ourselves we put into our screen time, not just looking at a computer, but I'm definitely talking about a phone, right?
Mhm.
We're so addicted and dependent on our phones that sometimes if you say, well, you can't have your phone for the next hour, you start to panic, right? I have a horrible relationship with my phone. I get in trouble for not answering it and being available. Um,
But just think about
it's
that
true.
though. If you're scrolling and you're reading through and you're taking, I mean, this is me. I'm like taking on the emotions, the energy of the post, of the people behind the post.
Yes,
And it's like,
everything.
and I can say, because I've been paying attention to this lately. I've been studying the body codes and the emotion codes. I forget the guy's name that wrote the book, but I can when I've had enough, my body will tell me. It's like I start to feel sick to my stomach. I'm like, I feel the stress, and it's like, oh, I gotta get off. It's like I gotta get off of this thing. Like I almost want to throw it. And I was going to say to you, like, our dogs, our animals they can sense our frequency, but they also have, I was going to say, do they get stressed? That's what's bringing on, like you said, their illnesses as well, other than other environmental things. And there's an interesting thing that I learned in the body codes, in the emotion codes, that you can actually, the animal, the dog will actually tell you what is wrong with them if they're sick, and you don't really know what it is, that you can actually stand in as a proxy for them, and you'll be able to tell what is wrong, what area of their body, whatever is going on with them. And it's because it's all energy and frequencies. So
Yes,
it is just fascinating to me. And I think I used to think, like, people care more about their animals, and we talk about this sometimes, because we have our pet first aid and CPR classes are the biggest classes that we have, that are the most popular. And when we offer our our human first aid and pet and CPR classes, it's almost like, wow, people care more about their pets than they do about humans.
they do. And they'll do more for their pets than they will for themselves. And, you know, one of the things that people ask me
Yeah.
is, Rita, what is the best herb that will help my dog the most, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Taking
an
care,
herb. It's not
taking
an
care of
herb.
you.
Get your get your stress under hand. Learn how to breathe properly. We don't even we're not even taught how to breathe properly, right? Learn how to breathe properly. Find out what stresses you out and eliminate it from your life as much as possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we have to turn on the news every now and then, right? But I don't know the last time I did. I sign petitions every day. My assistant signs them. She doesn't even care about the stuff that I care about practically. So, it's like she signs them for me because I don't want to see the images. I don't want to, I just can't do that in my life right now. I've got enough. And I don't want to be around negative people right now. I don't want to, you've got a good 15-25 minutes to complain to me, and then we're done, unless we're problem solving, or it's good to
We
listen,
wish it could do
right? You want
that.
to listen. But if
But
we go on and it's daily,
yes,
complaining,
Moment by
I
moment.
let's
totally
figure
agree.
out how to make your life better. And if you're not interested in that, then you know got to move on. And because of the fact that right now we need to take care of ourselves. We need to figure out how we work. And on that page 137 of my book, The Herbal Dog, it's how to make a holistic protocol for your dog. The number one thing to start with is to stabilize your dog's nervous system. And because it doesn't matter what you're feeding them, it doesn't matter about their liver or their lymphatics until you get their nervous system settled. Because if they're in fight or flight, their gut's not working. So they're not utilizing the food you're even feeding them. And
Mm.
to the ability that they should. They're not digesting well. Their lymphatic system isn't flowing well. Their liver isn't getting rid of toxins well. It's not processing those like it could if they were not stressed, as stressed. So we worked a couple weeks to get their nervous system calm. And I don't know if I mentioned in the book, but I might, to take some yourself if you feel you need it. There's everything in that book is human as well.
I was gonna say, I'm
Give
gonna
or
get it
take
for
the
myself.
gastrointestinal tract. Huh?
I was gonna say, I'm gonna get it for myself. I need to get my
Yeah.
nervous system under. So
Yeah,
how
you have to.
so how do you? And I know we're gonna, we're gonna put links below, in the description of the video, where people can get your book. I highly suggest that they get this. How do you do that? How do you are there certain herbs that you tell them to give
Yeah,
them?
definitely.
Okay.
Chapter 3 is the best chapter in the book. It helps figure out your dog as an individual. And once you figure out a few things about your dog, that will dictate what herbs will most likely
Okay.
work for your dog. And
Okay.
dogs that are more like uh, warm or hot and more uppity and loud and that bark a lot, those dogs need more what I would call sedation, like skullcap and California poppy and valerian, most of the herbs that you're going to see if you get a calmative in commerce, a chamomile, those are all cooling. Milky oats is another one that's really good. And then there's herbs that are adaptogenic. Those are more for dogs that, in general, they're more for dogs that are more on the cool side and that they worry. Those dogs worry a lot, and they are much more sensitive to stress. And those are things like ashwagandha, and I use thing like nettlebud and reishi mushroom. Um, uh, I think that, and there's adaptogens for dogs that are more hot too. But like urethral and uh, I like to use nettlebud and certain things like that. And I covered them all in my book. But those are definitely things that help calm and sometimes sedate the nervous system so that dogs can get out of fight or flight and have what's called more heart rate variability to be able to adjust their heart so that it is not racing and it's calm. And the heart really dictates the entire body, and it's so much a part of the nervous system because the nervous system really does dictate everything that's going on in the body and how well it's happening. And that's why, for me, it's number one, where a lot of people aren't even concerning themselves about their dog's nervous system health.
So how would you know? Now, I know you did describe a little bit of the type of dog, but how would you know for sure, like which kind? And there's certain breeds that act a certain way that are more hyper, or how would you know that they would actually need to calm that nervous system down?
Um, every dog needs their nervous
But
system calmed
okay.
in some way, fashion. Yeah, absolutely. We are living in a stressed out society, and I'm talking about America, Canada, parts of Europe. We are stressing ourselves out. We are on a 24-hour news cycle. We have way too much information that we have not been evolved to take that in. Before the internet, we didn't know what was happening on the other side of the earth. We got little bits and pieces, but it wasn't our concern, right? And that goes for the other side of the planet. We were not their concern.
Right.
We were more dealing with our own litter box, right? And now we care about absolutely everything, and it's being thrown at us, and it's all advertising, and it fluctuates for what we say and what we look at and what we do, and it's just so much information all the time. And then also here in America, productivity is how you are valued,
Yeah.
right? Productivity. Oh my God, in Italy, I have to tell you, they stop doing things for the most part between 3 and 6, right? You can't hardly find a snack, nothing between 3 and 6. You may be able to find a coffee. They're coffee obsessed, but and their coffees are this big. They're tiny, little tiny coffees. You go in and you go right at the bar, you drink it and then you leave. Like it's this big. And it's not the 72 ouncer. It's that big. Anyways, and it has nothing in it either. It's just, I did the cappuccino decaffeinato. That was my drink in Italy. I
Okay, I'm
loved it.
so convinced. I've been wanting to go to Italy for so
Oh my
long.
God. I highly
That's my
recommend.
my heritage, and I'm telling you, if I go, I'm probably not coming back now.
I highly recommend. I highly recommend. But from 3 to 6, they don't open their restaurants till at least 6:30, 7 o'clock, and a lot of them 8 o'clock. Now, I'm not into eating at 8 o'clock. I don't understand that, and I don't want to. However, they just don't. It's just so weird. But productivity is how we're judged in this country, right? You need to be productive, and if you're not productive, you're a lazy slob, right? Uh, that's got to change, right? We need more time off. We need more time to breathe. We need more time to think. I think that we should all throw our phones away. Um, People do get mad at me for not being available, but I'm not available 24/7. I'm not even for emergencies. I'm not available 24/7 because if I am, I'm not going to be here.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
people are like, oh my God, what if something happened? You know, this is how bad it is for me. I live with my 94-year-old mother. I love her beyond measure. Okay. She does real well. She lives on the other side of the house. Okay. She's got one of those things around her neck. And the reason why is because I'm on the complete other side of the house. I shut my bedroom door. I lock my bedroom door when I go to bed. Okay. And I turn my phone off. It's not on. She can't call me. And she has to press the button if something happens. Now, I will hear my dogs bark and I will, yes, my dog Gertie, anything happens to my granny, Gertie hits the door. But my cats and I, we go to bed, and sometimes my pug, well, my pug lives somewhere else, it's a long story, but when she sleeps over, my pug and I and my cats will go to sleep. But I guard my sleep like it is gold. And a lot of people would be like, oh my God, what if something happened to your mother in the middle of the, you know what? I'm not available. If something happens and I see flashers outside, I'm going to get up, put some clothes on, and go see what's going on with my mom. Or she'll knock on my door, right? She'll come and knock on my door, which is fine. But I am not sleeping with the phone on,
See, I struggle with
right?
that one. I struggle with that one.
Yeah. And my mother made it 85 years without being available via phone.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, we did.
she did fine, like, and I'm thinking about getting a landline installed. Again, I used to have one. I think I'm going to get a landline
We have
installed so she can call me if she wants to, now that she's going to be 95 this year and she is slowing down a bit. I mean, she's amazing. Um, I mean, this isn't an old decrepit woman that I'm leaving by herself. She is amazing, right? But I'm thinking about getting a landline installed so she can call me. But the landline doesn't affect your health,
right.
but the cell phone does. And I'm not throwing myself on my sword so that I can hear my mom maybe once a year in some type of something, right?
Mhm.
So
Mm.
it is that way. And that's where when I got cancer, I had to just draw the line. I'm like, okay, what stresses me out?
Right.
Why am I sleeping with one eye open? I don't want to sleep with one eye open. We're not meant to be available 24 hours a day. We are meant to sleep, and our dogs are meant to sleep as well. I turn the Wi-Fi off. I turn the phone off. I don't, I don't have I think a smart home is a dumb home.
Mhm.
Um, because that affects your cellular structures and your DNA expression. Wi-Fi does.
Yeah.
We have Wi-Fi on for like 7 hours a day, up to 10 hours a day, and then I turn it off. And I read a book, I go to bed. And at first I felt weird. I felt weird. I was like, okay, this is weird. But my dogs are benefiting. And when I leave my house, why do I need the Wi-Fi on? I don't. I turn it off. I have a
True.
deadbolt, and I have a big bulldog that will bite you if you come in my house. So like, I don't want smart technology
Mm.
in my house.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a Ring camera, but it has to have Wi-Fi, right? I'm
Mhm.
not leaving Wi-Fi in my home. I feel bad for people who live in apartments that have all that Wi-Fi, but the closer the router is to you, the worse it is.
Mhm.
Having the router in your office ups your chances to cancer exponentially. And the sad thing is, and people think I'm insane, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But here's the statistic: 1 in 2 dogs will die of cancer.
Mm.
And really, it's not a matter of, and with humans, it's getting to the point where it's not a matter of if, it's when,
Mm.
Yeah,
right?
it's getting crazy. Yeah, it's getting
Yeah, it's
crazy.
getting crazy.
Yeah.
And in 2003, that's when I opened my boarding kennel. I had never met a person or a dog that had ever had cancer. So that is 22 years ago,
Mhm.
right? And what has happened in 22 years?
Yeah.
We never turn our Wi-Fi off in our home. We used to have dial-up, remember?
Mhm.
We used to have dial-up and we used to be hardwired.
Yeah.
We used to be hardwired.
Yep.
And then we got Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi came into our homes. Our food system has completely went to shit. I mean, literally, just terrible. And we are vaccinating our dogs out the roof for things that do not need to be vaccinated every year for. It's insanity. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. So anyone who believes I am, I'm not. I don't believe in vaccinating dogs yearly. There is no science to it. And we're feeding our dogs processed food. We don't care about our water quality anymore. Our water quality is the same with our food quality. So like all of these things have changed in the last 23 years exponentially. I mean, you have to look at what's happening with humans and dogs.
Yeah.
And the products in our house, the atomizers and the scent that everything has to have a scent, and our cleaning products and our laundry detergents, even our cheap clothing, it all affects our endocrine systems. And so, I mean, it sounds all crazy and messed up, but all we have to do is on a daily basis and a weekly basis, just take like one thing and improve it, you know?
Yes.
Learn how to make your own laundry detergent. There's something you can do.
Yeah.
You know, there's a book called The Forever Dog Life.
Okay.
It's by Dr. Karen Becker and Rodney Habib. It's this little book that has these recipes for your dog. But in the back, it has how to make a HEPA air filter for your house. And filtering the air is one of the most important things that you can do for yourself and your dog and your cats. And you basically can make it with $30 using a box fan and a HEPA filter from the hardware store, right? You tape it onto the box fan. No, it's not attractive. But if you have the money to get a good filter, go ahead. But if you don't have the money, right? $30, it lasts for, I think, like 3 months. You put them in different areas of your house, and the air quality in your house will go way up. And that's another thing that's contributing to, we're spending so much time in our homes over the last 20 years. The average American dog gets 15 minutes of exercise a day. We don't even want to talk about humans getting exercise, right? We're sitting on our butts. We're looking at the screens. We're not getting up. We're not moving our bodies. In fact,
Rita, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
About dog breeds. It's a pet peeve of mine is that many of us, we're talking about stress of the animals.
Yeah.
There are certain breeds of dogs that are not, they're just not wired to be living in an apartment.
Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely.
7
Great
days
Pyrenees.
a week, 24 hours a day. Yes. And we continue doing these things. I didn't, again, that was my pet peeve, but I didn't understand the impact. Not, it's just on the whole system, our whole system of lifestyle, and that's basically what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's changing. You just can't focus on the dog. You just can't focus on myself. If we're talking about beings existing in the same space, you have to think of the lifestyle that affects all of us. And you helped me think that, because I really didn't think of it that deep.
So many dogs, border collies, Australian shepherds, Pyrenees, chow chows, some of our little terrier dogs. Dogs are meant to get exercise. They're meant to be in groups. They're a community dog, right?
Chase a
And
rat.
it's fascinating. Our dogs need more exercise, but so do we. So and the interesting, depending on where you live, now, not like in Chicago and New York City, but like depending on where you live, if you see someone walking in America, if you see someone walking down the sidewalk, right, or the side of the road, they're either homeless to you or poor. there's got to be something wrong. Why are they walking? Right? They got a backpack on, and I hear people's comments all the time. Like, why are they walking? Like, we literally have taken, unless you are in a park or on a parkway or a loop or a designated walking area,
Yeah.
you will get beeped at. I mean, even in certain areas in the country, riding your bike, you will get harassed. And that's why I'm saying, like, we are so far removed from being outside right now. And I don't think the pandemic helped that, but we are so far from being removed from being in nature for being outside right now. It's unreal. And I really feel we're feeling the effects of it. Like, we are feeling the effects of being in the house too much. We are feeling the effects of being isolated. Uh, our cells are craving nature. Uh, you know, oxygen is an anti-cancer experience. Like, breathing fresh air and oxygen is so important to our bodies, to our dogs' bodies. And even that, just for those of you that are listening, ask yourself, how much are you spending on your phone, and how much time are you spending indoors?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've gotten to the point where if we are in the least bit uncomfortable in America, if we're too hot, we're too cold, right?
Yep.
We have to be just right.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we get too uncomfortable, and then we make this choice of, well, I can't go outside, it's too cold. I can't go outside, it's too hot. And yeah, I mean, I don't do well in damp conditions. I have too much dampness in my body, and I don't do well in damp conditions. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. But that's like really in the like dead heat of summer. But like, if there's no damp, I have no problem going outside. But like, I mean, people are getting to the point where they just can't even be uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah.
Well, that's the pursuit of comfort and ease, right?
Yeah, but it's at a detriment. Our body doesn't really
Yes,
like comfort and
exactly.
ease.
No, well, it doesn't. It doesn't thrive by comfort and ease, contrary to what we think we believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's the same way, in the same way with our animals as well. It's the same thing, you know.
Yeah, our
I
animals, it's okay for them to be a little uncomfortable for sure.
I
Hmm.
did an interview with a friend of mine who works with the limbic system. She's from Canada, and something that she said really stood out to me, and I really thought about this because I too live with my mom. She'll be 92 this year. She's struggling with dementia, so
No.
uh, I'm going to do a whole program on that sometime. But we were so Suzanne and I, and actually going to go up next, my next interview. She was talking, we were talking about stress, and she said, we try to get away from the stress. We think and it isn't good on our physical bodies if we don't handle it, if we don't take care of it, right? But actually, stress is what actually, and I'm not quoting her because I don't know exactly how she said it, but this is what I took from it. It is not so bad because it moves us if it moves us towards something, if it moves us towards change,
Hmm.
um, and makes us stronger, right? It's
Yeah.
when we
Right,
keep that
right, right,
within our bodies
right.
and hold on to that is,
We weaponize it. That's
yeah,
what
yeah, that's a good
that's
way
what
to
every,
put it. That's
Yeah.
we
I
weaponize
mean,
everything.
yeah, and stress is not the enemy. It could
Mhm.
right.
we're apt to for certain small spurts of stress. It's the
Mhm.
Yes.
unmanaged, prolonged
Yes.
stress that is the problem, and it's definitely what we're suffering from right
That's
Yeah.
now.
what you mentioned. That's what you were mentioning with um, the our animals being under stress, us being under stress constantly,
Mm.
always, and that's just part of the lifestyle, and that's just not good. We
No.
weaponize it.
Yeah, and the human body is not meant to look at a phone while walking down the sidewalk, right? your body, like when you do that, right, you're looking at the phone, but your body is also trying to perceive, like to look at, okay, is there something I'm going to trip over? Am I going to hit a tree? As someone coming at me? And you see people driving in their cars looking down, going like this, right? That is such an exponentially stressful situation, even though you don't realize it, right? And also, here's some advice to every dog owner out there, and it comes from love. Get off your phone while you're with your dog. Get off your phone while you're with your dog. Okay? Stop listening to your podcast. Stop listening to whatever when you're on your phone and with your dog. Okay? Be present to your dog. They know when you are not paying attention to them. That's all they really want you to do, is love them and pay attention to them and be safe, right? You're not safe when you're on the phone and with your dog. Okay? So they're sitting there worrying about you, and they want you to play with them. They want you to interact with them. They want you to breathe. I mean, if you ever have done yoga with your dog or breathing exercises with your dog, they will either try to participate or lay down and go to sleep.
Mhm.
And it's because you're calm and you feel safe, right? And
Yeah.
it's fascinating. My partner used to listen to podcasts while they were walking our dogs, right? And they listen to my podcast all the time. And so, they're like, "Oh my God, I was listening to that episode on the nervous system on your podcast, and I realized that I'm on my phone every time I'm with the dogs." And I'm like, "Yeah, you are." And so they started to stop being on the phone. And things just completely shifted with one of our dogs. She's a very sensitive little girl. And just completely shifted with her behavior on walks because there was no connection. There
I
was
can
no
imagine.
connection,
I can
right?
imagine because even when you're doing that, you're missing. It's hard enough when you start to get to know, especially if it's not your animal. You have to know and study their gestures. You have to know, and because they're not going to be able to tell you verbally, what's going on. You have to be aware of their language to be able to do that.
Yes.
And you can't do that. You're actually walking outside in public, out in the cruel dark world, and you're not in a space where you can hear your dogs, you know, um,
Yeah.
communicate and connect with them. I mean, I walk my dog every day, and it is the times I walk them. People probably think I'm insane. 3:30 in the morning, it's dark, and at night around 10 o'clock or 9:30, 10 o'clock or so, I can't. My vision is already poor. Um, I don't walk with any communications devices on or listen to anything. I have to pay attention to what's going on, my environment, and I have to rely on my dog Buxley. I have to rely on Buxley to tell me what he sees and hears that I can't see and hear.
Yeah.
When he needs to stop, when he needs to go, I have to. There has to be a connection. I had to
Yeah.
learn that the hard way because when I first got him, I was telling everybody, "Oh, you have to train to walk him because he doesn't know how to walk." And I need to take him someplace where I can. He needs to be trained on how to walk. No, we need to be trained how to walk.
Yeah.
It wasn't him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. We just, I think we've gotten out of whack. We've just
Yeah.
gotten out of whack, and we just have to, we have to figure out. I mean, all of the things that are happening, they're just common sense, right? Like it's just common sense. Our common sense has gotten uncommon, right?
Well,
You
that's
know,
that's the point. You know, if your point of reference isn't common, it's not going to be common.
not anymore. We got to get back
Yeah.
to like things that we know it's true. We just don't want to be bothered by it. You know,
Mm,
it's all about being convenience and comfortable,
yeah.
and that's just not it's not the recipe for uh a for thriving. It's just not.
Right. 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 I agree. Amen.
Yeah, well, this has just been fascinating. I have a question. I think it's actually two, if you don't mind. We'll see.
Yeah.
For one of our listeners. And I think one of my questions would be, how can I protect my dog from fleas and ticks naturally? Let's start with
Good
that one
one.
first. Let's start that one first.
Well, that is a 3 hour conversation.
Okay, we
Um,
can bring it back for that one.
you work on the inner terrain, but there's lots of things to do on my course platform, which is canineherbalism.com. I
Mhm.
have a natural flea care training on there. I'll be coming out with a tick one later on this year or in the spring, depending on when I get it done. But that one will be really good. Fleas and ticks are not the same creatures; they're different species, and people try to treat them the same, and that you can't. Um,
Hmm.
but I do have a flea training. But the healthier your dog is, the more resilient they're going to be to those little creatures. It is normal for your dog to have 1 to 2 fleas. That is normal. It's a normal thing. You use a flea comb, but it's not normal for them to be infested with fleas. Um, so there's lots of things you can do, but I would definitely check that course out. What's your second question?
So the second one is natural ways to help my dog with seasonal allergies. He's so itchy all year long except for winter. It's not his food, as I'm knowledgeable in that area, and make sure he's not having any of the top allergens, chicken, beef, grain.
Um, well, a couple of things. So seasonal allergies are liver and lymphatics. So the liver and the lymphatic system need support. uh, Nettles, quercetin, um, different natural antihistamines because they don't shut histamine down, they just modulate it. So histamine modulators are good. Nettle is one of those things. Reishi mushroom is another one. Turkey tail mushroom, chaga mushroom, those are good histamine modulators. Uh, Quercetin is a great supplement to mix with nettles for seasonal allergies. But all of those things modulate histamine, but they also support the liver. Um, and if you have a healthy liver, you won't have seasonal allergies. Um, and I would tell that person to get my book, The Herbal Dog, learn about their dog as an ecosystem, and feed an energetically appropriate diet as much as possible. You'll learn about that in chapter 3, which will bring down the burden on the liver, but also work to improve lymphatic health, stabilize the nervous system, and gently support the liver. And if you start now, by next year, they probably won't react to anything.
I
Okay.
have a question.
Yeah.
I have, you, Donna, was that all the questions that
No,
came in?
I was just gonna say, and people can get these herbal supplements. Is it just at a natural food store? Or you have to get it online?
So if in my book it'll say see the herbaldog.com for more information.
Okay.
Um, my publisher wouldn't let me put anything in the book that could go out of business or anything like that. So,
Mhm.
on that website, there's resources for all the countries that my book is available in, for
Okay.
different types of places to purchase herbs and supplements and herbal remedies.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you deal with pet bad breath?
So pet bad breath is usually one, stress, uh, a poor microbiome, bad teeth.
Mhm.
Um, so one, you're going to make sure that your veterinarian looks at their teeth, make sure you're doing things for good teeth. I love a product called Teef, Teef. It's a probiotic for the mouth for your dog. You put it in the water. It's great. Parsley is really great for bad breath, chlorophyll, like things like chlorella or spirulina, parsley, things that are high in chlorophyll, different types of greens can help with bad breath. It's either stress breath, bad teeth, or again, their microbiome is really depleted. Like, for instance, dogs can get really bad breath after using antibiotics and during antibiotics.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah, but doggy breath, it can be a thing. So there's things that you can spray. I On my course platform, I have a oral health course as well, because the fleas and ticks and oral health are not in my book. So
Uh,
So on
okay.
your
my book is 457 pages
Wow.
already. It just couldn't be any
Yeah,
bigger than that.
wow.
So
sure.
uh, they wouldn't let me put certain things in there. So I have a course on, a training. It's kind of more of a training on oral health, and then what products to use, where you can purchase them, and all that good stuff, and the same for fleas.
So
Okay, thanks.
on your course platform, do people have to be a member? Is it a subscription, paid, course by course?
Uh, there's a few things on my, it's canineherbalism.com, and I have like what's called the Canine Herbalist Advisory. That's a subscription group. It's $25 a month. You can ask me any question, unlimited question about anything, because I also work with humans, um, and some horses and cats. And so, like, you can ask me any question. Um, Currently, I'm learning about chickens. Uh, and um, that's very popular, but that's the only subscription. And then I do have a subscription to what's called monthly monographs. Those are like one herb a month that we go in depth in. I have a level 1 canine herbalism course. I have a certification track there. It's a 4-year track, but the level 1 is for everyone. Um, I have a canine energetics course. I have the oral course, a flea course, and the phytoembryonic therapy course. So I have a few things on that. And then my podcast, Dogs Are Individuals, is on there.
Okay.
Um, and then at canineherbalist.com, that is my consulting platform and my store. So I make a lot of my own herbal remedies, and I sell a lot of my colleagues' remedies that I know are good. Um, so there's a lot, to be had with me if you want to get more information. But yeah, phytoembryonic therapy. That's why I was in Italy. So I was doing I was on a research trip in Italy for phytoembryonic therapy. That is using plant stem cells, so the embryonic parts of different plants, for deep systemic detoxification and healing. And they're very, very good at getting like heavy metals out of the body, detoxifying plastics, um, dealing with like deep-seated disease, uh, whether it be cardiovascular or musculoskeletal or nervous system. They have some really great remedies, and I've been using those for about 10 years. So I absolutely love phytoembryonic therapy.
Wow. My goodness. Well, I'm on overload.
Yes,
This
definitely.
has been
You got a lot to learn.
amazing. Oh my goodness. Thurston, you have any other final questions or comments?
No, that was all. My two questions were fleas and ticks, which she mentioned, and I'm sure they were the popular questions for most people, and breath.
Well, I have a tip for you,
Uh-huh.
because you're in emergency medicine. I have
Mhm.
a tip for you. So, in your medical kit, get a jar of powdered yarrow.
Powdered
Okay?
yarrow. Okay.
Powdered yarrow for dogs and people. Okay? If someone cuts themselves super deep, I don't care if it's right down to the bone,
Hmm.
right? You take the powdered yarrow and you pack it in there, right? And it will stop the pain within less than a minute. And
Really?
it will heal the wound from the inside out. It is absolutely,
Good arrow.
positively a miracle. It stops the bleeding like that. It's a stypic. It stops the bleeding, but it takes pain out of a wound so quick that it's pretty. It's kind of like a miracle. It's a miracle.
Do you
And
make
it
it
should be
into
in every emergency kit.
Rita, do you make it into a paste
No,
to put it in, or
no,
you
mm-mm.
just
You
okay?
just pour the powder in. It'll get sticky with the blood.
Okay.
Um, and you just pour it in, and you
Mhm.
might have to do it twice, and then you can wrap it and leave it.
Right.
It's amazing. Like I can't tell you the uh, quote unquote miracles. I've seen it do. I learned about it from one of my mentors. His name is Matthew Wood, and he tells about this story about this guy that cut himself with a chainsaw,
Mhm.
right down to his bones, and even nicked the bone. And they didn't have anything. They were out in the forest, and they had yarrow, and he packed it with yarrow, and it was amazing because the wound was like healed in like 4 or 5 days, and he had hardly any pain with it at all. Because that something like that can throw you into shock.
Mhm.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
you
hey.
know,
Do you have a section or in your book, or is this a potentially separate training just for emergency medical?
yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna create a training for emergencies next year. But the information about yarrow and the wound is in my book. Um,
oh,
I think it's under like these little tips that are throughout my book. But
gotcha.
yeah, yarrow is amazing. And there's another one that I absolutely love. It's a product, but you can also make it yourself. Um, it's called Adored Beast Go To, but it's a blend of homeopathic arnica and aconite, and you spray it in the mouth when people are in shock or they're really afraid, right? They get hurt and they start to panic. Um, it cuts that out in just seconds. Like it will, like my little pug, Figgy Nubbins, uh, she has fear-based seizures. It's from getting her eye taken out by a dog. So she's 12
Uh,
pounds and picked a fight she couldn't cash. And
uh,
and uh ever since then she's had like these fear-based seizures, and they don't come very often, but when they do, like you can literally spray that in her mouth and her seizure is done in like 3 seconds.
and what
And
is it again, Rita?
it's homeopathic aconite
Aconite.
mixed with homeopathic arnica, and it's 30C. That's the potency of it. It's homeopathics are in potency, and that's the potency 30C. But that's another thing. I don't leave the house without it in my pocket. I never do.
Mm, wow.
If I start to freak out, I got in a car accident
Mhm.
a few weeks ago. Actually, now it's like over a month ago. Uh, right before I left for Italy on the crazy interstate outside of New York, I smashed into someone on the interstate. It was terrible, and I walked away from the accident, but I was shaking so hard I could barely speak.
Mm.
And because it was very traumatic, right? And
Right,
I
right.
remembered the aconite and arnica in my car in a spray bottle, and I sprayed it in my mouth 3 times, and within just a few seconds my shaking stopped, and I was able to communicate with the officer. He looked at me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just 1 second. I have to get my," like I couldn't barely even, so I was like, "Oh God, I got," and I was starting to go into shock. I could feel myself going into shock, and just popped me right out, and that's another one. Those are my two must-haves in my emergency medical kit for humans and dogs.
Well, we got to really pray that you move forward with the emergency medical part. That is good. I mean, of course, we appreciate your time and efforts on the more the definitive care, but the emergency end, it'll be very helpful. It's interesting how we've advanced so far from in terms of human out of hospital medical care. It is phenomenal. And of course we're reaping the blessings of it for those that are trained and utilizes the research and technology. But in terms of pets, not much of anything um, for decades. And
Yeah,
so,
well, there's so much you can use in emergency care. Yeah, I will tell my team to let's prioritize that. I did want to tell you something for you personally. Can I
mhm,
tell you something? Are we done
sure.
recording?
No, just
Oh,
Yeah, let's wait. We can wait unless you want to share it with the world.
Yeah, I don't. I
Well,
don't.
I want to, yeah, let's, geez, there's so much. So I have something that I have called herbal stitches, which is the same kind of thing that you're talking about. And when my mom put this big gash in her leg, I put it in for her. But of course, she didn't she didn't want to keep doing it because she's so used to the whole medical world and all that. But it's amazing stuff. So before we go, Rita, what would you say to the person who's like new to all of this? And there's so much information to take in. What would be the first step besides reading your book? I mean, they definitely should get your book.
Yeah, I definitely would get my book. And I also would get I definitely after that I would get the book Four Paws, Five Directions by Cheryl Swartz because, like I said, everyone should have one. Um, I would breathe,
Hmm.
right? We only can do what we know how to do. Um, I would tell people to start trying to trust their intuition. Um, learn, just learn something new every week. It's those little increments that really add up to big bonuses in longevity and stress relief. And if it really does start with the nervous system and then work on the diet, you know, work on getting processed food out of your life and your dog's life, and it can be slow or it could be fast. It doesn't have to be fast. It can be nice and slow. Work on, maybe work on replacing treats and then make work on improving the bowl. There's a great company called Green Juju. I think it's greenjuju.com. The lady that started that company over 10 years ago, she started it to help improve her French bulldog's kibble. And uh, they have a whole line of products that you can add to the bowl if you are feeding kibble to improve the diet and getting your dog used to eating real food again. And so, it doesn't have to be stressful.
Wow.
Don't focus on what you don't know. Focus on adding information
Mhm.
slowly so that you don't stress yourself out.
That's great advice. Thank you so much. This is beyond my expectations. We've received so much information, not only for our pets, but for ourselves. I mean, this has been amazing. So, Rita, we have to
Yeah.
have you come back when you do that emergency training
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
And
Yeah, that
Absolutely.
would be fun.
I would love to I'd love to talk about horses sometime. So, I know you're really busy. We wish you the best on this. You're going to be doing an international tour with your book as well. Everybody make sure
Yeah.
that you get that book.
You
And
can buy it wherever you buy books, anywhere.
okay.
It's traditionally published, so it's published by uh, a publishing house in Vermont called Inner Traditions. They're one of our oldest publishing houses, and um, it's anywhere. It's in Europe and Australia and
Wonderful.
everywhere. It hasn't been translated into any different languages yet, but definitely it is available, so you can get it
Well,
wherever
you
you buy
keep up the
books.
great work. This has been, I want to go back to one thing that you said way back in the beginning when you said the words came out of your mouth that you were a canine herbalist.
Yes.
And that's when you became that, and
Oh
how
yeah.
important our words are, and that you are making a sound in this earth today. This is going to be on both of our platforms, Worldwide Academy Training Services, as well as my platform called The Sound, which is it is a platform that I bring and interviews on with people who are making their sound, who are making an impact in the world. And you are definitely doing that. And we can be encouraged by so much of what you have said, not only for our pets, but also for ourselves. So thank you so much again. I know you're
You're
busy,
welcome.
and I so
Thank you,
appreciate you
Rita.
taking the time.
You're so welcome.
Oh, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Please, if you found this value, and I'm sure you will, to please share, hit the thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe so that you know when the next interview is coming up. And the more you share, the more people will learn about this, and we can actually make a change and a difference in this earth today. So thanks for tuning in. Thank you guys for being here, and we will see you on the next one. Ciao.